You're listening to the RE Social Podcast with your hosts, Andrew and Vince from OnV Invest. For more information, go to onvinvest.com.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of RE Social. Today we have Jim Sheils. I met Jim at the Jason Hartman event with a bunch of my friends. So that was a really good, fun time we had. Hey, Jim, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to see you again.
Yeah, so I know a little bit about you because, we spend a lot of time at the bar at the event. So we were talking a little bit, but in 90 seconds or less, can you tell people what do you do in the space of real estate?
Yeah, right now my niche is build to rent. I build properties, new construction, low density properties, single family, duplexes and quads in high growth markets in Florida for not only ourselves, but for lots of investors.
Nice, man. What markets in Florida?
We started in Jacksonville, moved down to Palm Coast, out to Ocala, Citrus Springs, Inverness, and then about 7 or 8 different markets in Southwest Florida that kind of go around the basis of Fort Myers.
Yeah, and then you said that you tend to do at least about 50 to 100 homes to some area you go to, right?
Yeah, it doesn't, for capacity wise, unless we can build at least 100 properties. We always set up management before we go into a market. So unless we can build at least 100 properties, we don't go into that market.
Yeah, that's really good for investors. So they know that you kind of stick with the market too. And do you, are you part owners of the management company too?
Yeah. So our system of how it works is our building company and our management company work intricately. They're different companies, but same ownership. We build the properties and then we long-term manage them. And the advantage for that is, when you're building the property and you're going to be with it for long-term, you look at it differently. I think it holds a builder to a higher accountability, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. In this podcast, Jim, we usually try to get to know you first and see how you come to where you are. So can you give us a little bit about how you started?
Yeah. I started 24 years ago. I bought my first fixer-upper, reading a few books and going to a course just in northern Santa Barbara County. 3-family probate sale, fixer-upper, fix it up, raise the rents, and said, man, this did good. I'd like to do more of this. So being young and able to starve myself, I quit my job and got a few people from where I grew up to partner with me on fixer-uppers in an area pretty well called Bakersfield, California.
Yeah.
And just started buying HUD foreclosures, for we're talking 40, 50, 60,000. And that got me my start, started buying, fixing, and selling HUD foreclosures and selling them to first-time home buyers, then started holding them as rentals. And then when the market started to get really crazy out there in 2005, I wanted to go someplace else that had a little bit different fundamentals and better landlord laws. And Florida was kind of the key for me. And that's where I went. And I've been there ever since.
That's crazy, man. That's funny that we both started off in Bakersfield. We had up to I think 30 or 40 units at some point, and we have the last 4 it's going on sale that we're getting out of Bakersfield as well. And we buy in Inland Empire in Orange County now, but we are looking into Florida and Tennessee. I mean, we have a small ownership in the 44 unit in Lakeland, Florida, but we are trying to do a little bit of more of what you guys are offering and trying to look into different ideas. So did you have any questions?
Yeah. So in very simple terms, for myself and for anyone out there, because I'm just now meeting you for the first time. What's your value proposition? How can someone work with you and how does that work?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think that, post 2008, I got really heavily into the foreclosures and the bulk foreclosures, buying them, fixing them up, renting them, or working with investors and on-selling them to investors. And that was good. But with older homes, there just seemed to be this 3-year curse. And the 3-year curse means you can do new roof, heating and cooling, plumbing, kitchens, baths. And after 3 years, my maintenance and repair seemed to jump. It just happened. And so when the foreclosure started to get really heated for bidding here with all the other investors, my now building partner and I said, what if we could start building some of our own houses? We could go to better areas. Yeah, it'll be a little steeper learning curve up front, but we can go to better areas, have less maintenance, repairs, less turnovers, less headaches, better resaleability. And that's what happened, and that's 2,000 plus properties later. We figured out that if we could build new construction in better areas, it was better for everyone involved. And so our value proposition is being able to go into a high growth area like Florida, into the right markets. And, we've left our foreclosure model behind. And all we do now is new construction. And from the numbers and stats we've shown, new construction done right can outperform all of our old rehab jobs and then some. So that's where we help. If people are really looking to go into a portfolio long-term or look long-term with it, our properties offer the best opportunity for that.
So if I have like 100K, what am I doing with your company?
Again, financing, all of our homes can go Fannie Freddie financing. They're in good areas, no appraisal problems. So you can go into anything from, our properties go from 240,000 up to 750,000 for a single family up to a quad. And you can use that to leverage into a down payment on a property to look long-term with. The way that I built most of my wealth was that disciplined approach of planting seeds into good properties, letting those seeds season for a few years, and then pulling equity off and then dumping it into more properties. And that's where, a starting seed can happen with our build to rent. For if you only have 100,000, that's a great starting point to get into a property, plant the seed, let it take hold, and then look to leverage off of it. At least that's the strategy I used for years.
Nice. And so so Vince was talking about how it works very tacitly in that it's basically a new build. We invest in it. And then you basically build it, you manage it for 2 years and then hand it off to, say, us if we were to invest with you. Is that how that works?
Yeah, we'll manage longer than 2 years. It's a 2-year requirement with our properties, and there's lots of reasons for that. But after 2 years, if you want to manage your own properties, you're more than welcome to. Right now, we have like a 98% retention rate of people that are over the 2-year mark because they are happy where they're at, but that's totally up to you. Nice. But with our properties too, you step in with a final loan. If you guys have built your own houses, and construction loans can kind of be a pain. They're pretty paper intensive. There's things to keep up with. You're also paying on interest as the draws are being taken out to build the property. You don't have to do any of that with our program. You put up a 10% deposit and we build out the property. All you need is a permanent loan at the end.
Nice. So you just have to set that up. That's on us to set all that up with a loan officer or something like that.
Well, yeah, we have lenders that we work with. You can use whoever you want, but people always say, well, who have you used? Who do you use?
Right.
And so we have a short list of lenders that have gotten the job done hundreds of times, and that's an option for you to use as well.
Wow. Sounds like a very easy way to invest in real estate without needing to worry too much about all the normal headaches of real estate.
Yeah, I'd say our avatar buyer, they're not looking to flip their first property or, become a real estate investor full time and that produces their income. Most of our investors, they are successful in their profession or their career. They own their business. They want real estate as part of their wealth strategy, but they don't want to recreate the wheel. They just want to plug into something, and that's where we step in.
Nice. We'll plug and play.
And it's pretty hands off for the investor, you think?
Yeah. Our goal is, again, going back to the strategy of new construction, with 210 warranties in place, management in place, our goal is, 15 to 20 minutes a month, reviewing your statements, checking in with us. That's the goal that we aim for our people. Because most of our people are busy and they're not wanting a second or third job in real estate. They're wanting to, reap the benefits, not create extra jobs.
So these houses, Jim, so are they close to any big hospitals or anything like that? So because we are trying to go away from long-term rentals to mid-term rentals to maybe rent it to like nurses and such like that. So we're looking at new builds in like Tennessee right now and Chattanooga and stuff. But we are very open to parking some money in the southeast red states.
Yeah, well, it's very hard to be in major markets in Florida like Jacksonville and Southwest Florida, where we are, and not be close to hospitals.
Yeah.
So we're always within a certain distance. Now, is it in walking distance? No. But is it in close proximity? Yeah, different projects of what we have, of course, will be.
No, it doesn't have to be walking. It's got to just be like, I think like 5-10 minutes driving.
Yeah, well, we have projects that happen like that in different areas for sure.
And then would you take on the medium-term rentals? Like would the property manager deal with it? It's usually 3 to 12 months.
Yeah, we don't do short-term rentals and we don't do medium. So, if you really wanted to do that, you could look at taking over your own management, but our focus is long-term rentals. I mean, I own some short-term rentals myself, but our focus for our niche is not the short-term rental space or mid-term rental. It's that longer one.
Okay, that's fine. And then so let's do some numbers, right? I'm like the numbers guy. So like a single family, you said it's about 250, and then when you go up higher, it tends to go towards 200 per door. Like if you do like a fourplex, that kind of like average.
Yeah, you're going to be at less than 200 a door, actually.
Okay.
Our quads are going in the probably little over mid 6s to mid 7s. So you're getting in at under 200 a door.
And then for the mid 6s to 7s, how much can you expect in long-term rents per month? Is it like 5,000-6,000 or?
There can be rents that high for sure. It depends on the area. What rents for an Ocala is not going to be the same as what it rents for in Jacksonville or Southwest Florida. So every market's different. So that's why whenever we're working with a client, we say, what are you looking for? What's your buying? What would you prefer? And then we match the rents, but rents will go anywhere from, 1,100 to 1,600 for a unit. But it depends on the area.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm assuming that if you go to an area where the price to rent ratio is a little bit lower, you can expect more appreciation. So in the years to follow, you'll probably catch up there faster, right?
Yeah. So like all of our markets, I mean, there's two ways that I've seen to make money in real estate: with growth and with cash flow. An area like Ocala is going to have a lower buy-in and a higher cash flow, but is probably, statistically going to show less growth. An area like Jacksonville is going to be a higher buy-in with lower cash flow, but is statistically shown higher growth. So you always trade off a little bit from one market to the next, but that will vary from market to market. But that's another reason why we invest in multiple markets.
What kind of cap rates do you guys suggest, and what kind of expense ratios do you guys use to get the cap rates?
Yeah, the cap rates are looking at about a 5 to 7. And again, with our 210 warranty, we're working off a pretty low ratio. We're looking at about 4% vacancy. And then the expense rate that we're going off of is usually looking at about a few hundred a month for what we use. Again, and that'll all be on our pro formas. But we look at about 5 to 7 right now, with about a 4% vacancy. And then after the 210 warranty, probably about $200 a month in expense estimates.
Per door, right?
Per door.
Yeah. That's pretty good, man. That's, we have very high expenses. So I usually pencil out 45% is just expenses. Now that includes property taxes too.
Yeah, property taxes. Yeah. And property taxes, as you guys know from being in California, certain areas will have higher tax, others will have lower. It's the same with our Florida markets. That varies. But when someone's working with us, we do performance for each of our properties so that they can see that. It's pretty hard now to say, people say, well, what's your average price? What's your average rent? What's your average cap rate? All these things, since we're in so many different markets, are going to vary. And that's why we try to pinpoint people. What are you really looking for? And then we can back them in and go through the individual performers on each one.
That makes sense. Do you have any?
Yeah, how do you take care of the investors during that, the first couple of years? Is it like a preferred return? Is it what's going on there?
You're the full owner. They just manage.
This is direct property ownership. So unlike a lot of funds, funds and syndications are great. There's three ways that I've, really made money in real estate. That's in funds, syndications, and direct property ownership.
Got it. Okay. Now it's clear to me.
Yeah, we're one of the few build-to-rent companies that actually will help smaller investors. And we work with smaller all the way up to the institutionals, but we will work with individuals to own their own property. That's not offered by a lot of build-to-rent companies. They'll only work with either institutions or you can invest into their fund that owns the properties. Nice. I still believe in direct property ownership. Again, I invest in all three. I'm very open about that. I have, investments in funds and syndications, but direct property ownership for me is what's created the most wealth for myself.
Wow.
So that's what we offer for our clients.
That's great. What a great business, great service, man. You're changing lives. That's beautiful.
Yeah, we have and I know, at the Hartman event, I was able to share some of our case studies, but we have over 1,000 active investors. And there's definitely been a very positive movement towards our build to rent program because the results that our clients have gotten to supplement their income, to not take on a second job, but have that extra support money coming in. And for some of our people, the perfect retirement residual income coming in.
Oh, piggy banks. Yeah, man, that's great. You might have some clients right here with us, man. I'm telling you, it sounds great.
Yeah, I was talking to Jim that, I was telling him that we do raise capital and, that's a different model. So, but it is very interesting, the way they operate the business. So Jason Hartman's whole thing is about direct ownership. So it's very interesting.
Right.
Very opposite to how like Kenny runs this, right?
Yeah. Right.
It's different. That's the syndication.
That's what I love about real estate. So, you talk to someone who says, "Oh, I do real estate." It's like, well, that could be so many things. In investing alone, there's so many niches, which is kind of the fun of it.
Jim, so how many properties was that? Sorry, go ahead.
I said there's many ways to skin the cat.
Yep.
Yeah. So Jim, how many properties do you own personally?
Well, I don't talk about how many the company owned, and for the couple dozen that I own personally, I own at a very low LTV.
Oh, nice. That's cool. So, that's
here's the question of the hour. Are you still in Kern County, Bakersfield?
I sold my last house on Christmas Tree Lane up on the bluff about 5 years ago.
Oh, 5 years. Right when we were getting in, you were like,
got in.
We bought your place, bro.
maybe. Yeah, I probably could have made more money, definitely holding on to it. But I had owned that thing since, when did I buy that? 2001. So I had done okay on it. So it was time to go.
And how'd you decide on Bakersfield of all places? We have our reasons.
I had a job many years ago, like 26 years ago, working for it's like this database company that sold foreclosure listings. And I was a salesman on the phone. I had taken this job. I had gone out from the Northeast to California. I had a sales job fall through. I found this one. I was all discouraged, inside sales, taking these things. But I'm reading these foreclosure listings from all over the country. And there I am in Santa Barbara, and this town keeps coming up on these searches that I have to do in Bakersfield, and the pricing was showing. I'm like, wait a minute, this must be a misprint. Showing this house is $45,000. From where I grew up, in the Northeast, just outside of New York City, that was unheard of to have that kind of pricing. So literally from this sales job, I saw Bakersfield. I went up there and started working with an agent, and sure enough, just started buying properties. It was very organic.
Nice. What kind of areas were you investing in?
BC areas. We played the name game. We probably owned properties on the same street.
Yeah.
We were in Upper Oildale and Oleander and, parts of West and, where else? There was, definitely did a couple properties out in Dustin Acres. That was way out on the way to Taft. And, but for the most part, it was it was that more central area of Bakersfield.
Overall, what's your sentiment about Bakersfield and investing there? Would you advise someone to do it?
I loved it. I thought it was great. It was an investor's playground. Remember where I was in Santa Barbara, the median price for a home was like $940,000.
Wow.
And the median price of a home in Bakersfield at the time was like $89,000.
Gee.
One less zero. So for, a young guy starting out, that's a big difference in down payment and getting into a property and taking a risk. And yeah, the spreads were smaller, but I thought it was great. Compared to a lot of California, the landlord laws were, I wouldn't say they were great, but they weren't as atrocious as some other areas. And we were able to really carve out a great existence there. That definitely got my investing muscles working in a big way.
Nice. Yeah, I feel the same sentiment. And now that we're pretty much kind of getting out of the market, it's not because I hate the market. It's not because we don't want, anything in Kern County, but we just have a different vision. But it got us our start. It got you your start, and it's a great place to begin because the spread's still there, prices are low, and the appreciation is also, it's California, so it's got a lot of wins.
I think we owned a few properties there. I mean, we sold like a big batch last year, and we're selling a batch now.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you add all of that equity and cash, 1031, that's almost $1 million of cash that we've kind of like got out of Bakersfield. And that was in like 3 to 4 years.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. I mean, I would have to work my entire life and put money in my 401k, and I can maybe have $1 million.
Yeah.
Real estate is a different leveraging tool. That's for sure. You plant the right seeds. You can feed it off of it within a few years if you do it right.
And we did, even with our first property, the infamous Quincy triplex, we basically, got hammered on a lot of, just making it work, got bad tenants, bad contractors. It's a fun story, but we still walked away with a pretty hefty profit that kind of made it all okay. But what's interesting about Bakersfield is, and we're in Orange County here, is it has a reputation. Some of it may be earned, some of it may be exaggerated, but we got a lot of flack from, the uncles and the friends and everyone telling you, you're crazy. What are you doing? And I'm driving, like I'm on the road, I'm taking the grapevine, like I'm gonna get out there and go.
Yeah, well, Bakersfield was the butt of Johnny Carson's jokes for years. He was always,
I didn't know that.
The armpit of California, and that's why people, you're going to Bakersfield. And I remember the first, we were setting up our first entity, and an advisor of ours ended up investing with us, said, hey, it was me and my business partner at the time. We said, you guys need to get some entities. And I said, okay, and he directed us to this hotshot lawyer in Santa Barbara. And we went in to get just a simple LLC set up or something. And the lawyer said, well, tell me what you're doing. And we said, oh yeah, we're going up there. And by this time we had done like 7-8 houses. So we had tested and they had done well. He said, yeah, we're going up to Bakersfield. We're going to start buying houses and renovating them and renting them out or selling them. And the guy literally stops and starts laughing at us.
We've had that.
And he said, hold it, guys, hold it. And he goes into this probably 5-minute lecture about all the reasons that Bakersfield was terrible, the air quality, this and that. And when I can think of some of the things that he was saying, they were so ridiculous and not related to real estate, but he sounded so smart. It was pretty defeating. And and at the end, he said, again, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but I think you guys are going to be back to waiting tables. And, and I was like, what the hell? Do I look like a waiter? I mean, I probably had waited tables within the last few years, but I wasn't a waiter at the time. And anyway, that always stuck with me. But the fact of the matter is we had already done houses. So I'm really glad I didn't go to see him before we started, because that might have scared me out. But the fact that I already had, half dozen plus under my belt, I'm like, what's he talking about? But that's just a lesson to anyone out there. You be very careful of taking that mountain climbing advice from the mountain climber who's never climbed a mountain, because I always think, how much real estate did that guy really own? Did he just lease his office and, charge big hourly fees, set up entities? That's something you got to be careful of. If someone has no money invested in real estate and they're the expert you're listening to, that's a risky proposition.
And that's exactly what we were getting from all angles.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not meaning to be certainly hurtful,
right?
But it's protective, maybe. And people are scared to do it themselves, so they try to scare you out of it. That's kind of what I've determined.
I do think there is that element of maybe jealousy isn't the word, but of you're trying to take a big swing, get a big chunk, and real estate has made more millionaires than any industry, and maybe it was partly that it was a jealousy, just like if this person's taking big swings, it makes them look like they're just not trying and not doing anything. And that's definitely.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And that's, the crabs in the bucket, right?
Crabs in the bucket. Yeah. And the crabs just get more, just they grow in quantity and strength as you ascend higher through another bucket.
Harder. They pull harder. So it's,
man.
It's a simple lesson, but a powerful one.
Absolutely.
Have you thought about investing in real estate and taking advantage of all of those benefits without any of the work? That is something that OnV Invest not only provides, but has been providing since its inception. With friends and family, we have built an empire in a system of a wealth-generating tool that is giving us and our friends and family that leverage in their life to create true wealth. Go to onvinvest.com for more to see if you qualify. And thanks for listening.
Nice, man. So that's good. We usually tell people that if don't take advice. You don't use a trainer who's fat, right, to get you into shape. It's like same way as I immediately stop people if they start giving us advice on Bakersfield. I say, how many properties do you own? If they can't respond, I just tell them to stop talking immediately.
He literally says those words to people.
I'm like, why are you talking to us? You have nothing.
Yeah, you got to be a little protective. I've learned that. It's opinions are plentiful and sometimes pretty cheap.
Sorry, Jim. So I wanted to ask you. So you went from doing similar things that we were doing a few years back, and then you kind of blew up by a lot. So what did you use? What was it? Was there like a mindset shift that you had? Or was it like an epiphany? What was it? Did you have something going on in your life that you just decided, you know what, I'm going to start a company and make 100 homes a year?
Yeah. Couple of things that I figured out is you got to be brutally honest and take inventory. And meaning taking inventory of what's worked and what's not. Yeah. So you look at people you work with, deals you work with. And I got really clear on the people I wanted to work with and not work with. I got really clear on what deals really worked and not only worked financially, but that I enjoyed doing. And I got clear on what I was good at and what I was not good at. And that's a really key thing here. There's some sort of, it's called the genius effect, that we're all a genius in something, and all pretty subpar in other things. And that's totally okay. And it's okay if you go deeper in your deeper genius and delegate the rest. But if you try to go deeper in the rest and delegate your genius, it falls apart. And I know that sounds maybe oversimplistic, but I got really clear on what I was good at. And I knew that I was good at developing relationships, raising capital, finding deals, and telling the story. And really everything else has been cut off of my plate. I could have, and sometimes a lot of entrepreneurs, especially investors out there, have the Lone Ranger approach, and that's great. I would not be where I was if I didn't decide to team up with my now building partner. He had a very specific skill set that was different than me. he loved handling a large amount of employees. I had no desire to do that. So when he was handling 150, I was handling 5, but I was able to take a big part of the venture and fill a thing that he needed and vice versa. And so that, we matched skill sets. We were very different, but very complementary and get along very well and share a lot of the same values. And that was important too. I could have tried to build this whole build to rent venture on my own and taken a bigger piece of the pie, but I think I would have had a bigger piece of a worse pie. So, having real clarity of who I liked working with, who I didn't like working with, what deals have been shitty and not really made that good of money, which ones have made the best money, where was I in the best position to help a venture and really bring my best skills to the table, and be honest about that. And that's really what helped do it. And I got super focused on that. I say no a lot, to this deal, that deal. Going back, I hung up my rehab shoes. I stopped looking at these types of deals and I went into how do I put together the best sales and marketing program for build to rent ventures in Florida. And that's all I focused on. And by able to do that, I was able to produce a bigger business, which in turn bought me more real estate. And that was it. So hyper focus and being brutally honest of what I was good with and just working in that skill set.
I love that. I read Who Not How. I'd already been employing a lot of people and was aware of the concept, but that book just made me go in hyperdrive. So I love what you just said right there. So much wisdom.
Dan Sullivan, Who Not
Dan Sullivan, yeah.
So Dan, that's who taught me about your genius. That's the capability amplifier. That's them. I mean, that's where I learned it. So it's going, wow, yeah, I really stink at that, and that's okay.
Yep. That brutal self-awareness though, that self-check of like, listen, all right, this is not my lane. This is not my lane. That's not my lane. I got one lane. All right, that's fine. And I think that's most people is we're very good, or at least have a passion perhaps to develop a skill behind that passion of maybe 1, 2, 3 things tops. And I think that might even be stretching it a little thin. So, and that I got very lucky in meeting Vince and that we have the same mindset, same kind of goals, kind of reaching for higher, you know, higher fruit off of higher trees, if you will. And luckily, he's very into the engineering and math and deals and running the hard numbers. And I just yell at him. I'm like, bro, just tell me what the PITI is. Like, let's look at that and I'll do the rest. Like, I'll do the market research around it and let you know what's going on. So,
yeah. And that's called complementary. So that's what you need. And that was huge for me. So
that's great.
Fixer uppers in bad neighborhoods that are almost impossible to fix up. I don't go to those anymore. I got no desire to own them. Got no desire to be there. I don't want the headaches. I don't want the retribution that comes from down markets and extra repairs. And I just, I would rather own less property of higher quality than own a bigger portfolio and with lower leverage too.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, I know we're coming towards the end, so I wanted to ask you some nerdy questions. So, so we are kind of younger in the game. We don't have millions of dollars to invest and kind of take the backseat and kind of make the property appreciate 3 to 4% a year. So what that's the same reason you were in Bakersfield, right? We were fixing up properties, increasing rents, and waiting for the price to go up, which we did, and we were able to collect some big checks. So now we don't want to do that much work because it's a little bit annoying to deal with those kind of lower income neighborhoods. So if we go to the turnkey properties, we do go away from a lot of those bad things happening. However, there is not a lot of upside in terms of, collecting equity by doing repairs or adding another bedroom and stuff, right? So how would you say to someone like us, like what would be like the best approach to take? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think niching down is extremely important.
Okay.
Niche into something. I remember when I first was going to start doing distressed property, I was looking all up and down California, Riverside and up in Stockton and this and that. And it's like, no, I'm going to Bakersfield. And then I went deeper and said, no, I'm only doing these types of properties. And no, I'm only doing HUD foreclosures. And so that can be replicated, not to go back to where you guys were, but in what you do moving forward. You want to be open when you're looking at things, but really to start to get your bearings, do you want to be on the inside track of something? Right now we're on the inside track of build to rent in Florida. We're on the inside track and we're super focused on that. We had to say no to a lot of other things. And now the venture's been built and we're able to really plug into it. And that's where, now that you have money, you want to be prudent with it and invest it wisely moving forward, but into a niche that you can start to develop, learn in, and be on the inside track. I'm going to try self-storage and this, and then, I'm going to develop this piece of land for that and do short terms and midterms and this in this area and that area, and you spread yourself thin, you're always going to be the freshman. You're always going to be on the outside of the deals and not realize that you are, if you're going to be an active investor. So that's one of the things that I encourage, and as most of our investors are passive investors, they're not, the three of us make our money doing active real estate deals. Yeah. So yes, we invest in real estate, but we also make money doing active deals. A lot of my clients are passive investors who have a successful career, profession, business. They want to be involved in real estate, but not full-time in it, like us. So those are the people you're looking to work with. Those are the people that are normally needing deal source from you. And that's who I will look to work with most of the time. Full-time real estate investors to me will say, well, I could probably find better deals than the portfolio you're putting together for me. I said, okay, that's fine. Then you want to do it on your own. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I work with people who don't have time to do it on their own, don't want to do it on their own. And they're willing to pay a little bit of a premium for that to get it done and keep their time up and still have the seed planted in the long-term approach. So for you guys, I would just recommend figure out a direction you want to go in to get an inside track on some niche in some area and focus on that and realize the difference between people that you can mastermind or brainstorm with, or the people that are actually going to invest with you. And both are good people, but both hold different values, and strategy in your business.
Man, there's so much to unpack there, man. Thank you for sharing that wisdom. That's a ton. Vin, before I go into my thing, Vince, do you have anything? More number questions?
Yeah, I was just going to go into what Jim said. So if you wanted to go like more deep down that road, so if you do, so it's all comes to like the type of people we talk to. So there are some like my sister and like in my family, they don't have time. They don't care. They're just going to write us checks and figure out like give us checks back. So those kind of people, it might make sense to park their money with like something like turnkey, just collect some paychecks and then wait. But then when you say you want to go deeper into some market, so what do you say? Like we do like our own building? Like we have no interest to do all that stuff. That's too much.
Yeah, I think he's just saying.
So when I say niching, it's really hard to be the expert in build to rent, garden style apartments, mobile home parks. There's so many different niches, and I'm not saying you can't look or investigate into all of them, but if you're trying to always run into all of them, you got to be pretty talented to do that. Most of the successful investors that I know can, in that stage of where they're at, can say what they do for the majority. Of course, there's other side things around it, but the majority, 85% of what they do is like one sentence. Like at one point in Bakersfield, I buy and renovate HUD foreclosures. That was my whole niche. And then I sold them and rent them. Right now we build low density, we do build to rent low density in Florida. That's it. It's like in one sentence, you can say what you do. That's where you're usually getting leverage and traction and volume. That's where things can take off. Because if you're always needling into this new thing and the freshman on a certain type of deal, you're never really going to take off. So you got to be willing to say no to a lot of things and really go deep into a niche. I think that's just been, it's worked for me.
Wholeheartedly agree. And that's put us in hyper speed when, we first went into it, we kind of knew it would work, but we really didn't know our roles specifically. Actually, we just based it off of friendship, and then finally quickly realized I do like walking into a unit and having a vision to put this there, that chair there, artwork. And then I have a business background with hospitality as well. I did 10 years of, being a bartender, waiter, and all that. So if that counts. But point is I really love the Airbnb and medium short-term play. I actually enjoyed a lot. I'm in the middle of another rehab right now in a duplex. He hates all that stuff. And thankfully he's one of those guys that just like can pull those numbers out of his head. So we got very lucky. And what you're saying is absolutely echoing what's been working for us. We just narrow down your lane. And then when you think you got it narrow, go narrower, I would say, and try to hire as many things out as you can. So that way you double, triple, quadruple down on your true skill set, bringing you the most, in my opinion, the most happiness and just whatever energizes me. But also that tends to be the same thing as what brings us the most financial benefit as well. So I love what this is great. We just did a meetup where we just kind of did that. We talked about that exact concept of just really build your team, and all the books say that. And we didn't really hit our stride until very recently on the build your team thing. And glad we did, glad we're doing it. And man, I just hope the audience really writing that down, because that is the game changer of everything you're saying. Was there any particular mentors or books besides the one that we had mentioned by Dan Sullivan, which is amazing? Everybody go buy it and read it tomorrow. Are there any other mentors or books that were very pivotal in your journey?
I had a lot of mentors. I was really lucky. If someone's never read a real estate book, I always tell them to read Real Estate Riches by Dolph DeRose. That was a great one. Rich Dad, Poor Dad will give you your first introduction to real estate. I really enjoyed that. The Richest Man in Babylon. These are more financial
mindset books.
Foundational books, that give you some more generalities, but it's super helpful. Keith Cunningham was my mentor for about 5 years. He wrote the Road Less Stupid. That's a really good one.
Nice.
And that's something that I would look at. Those are some starting points for sure. Because real estate's not that complicated, especially if you get into, a certain niche and really learn the fundamentals and numbers of that niche. There's not too as many moving parts, I think, compared to other businesses. So, whatever niche you're going to go into, follow a leader in that niche would be my best advice.
That's awesome. And do you have any books that you've written as well, or?
I wrote a family book called The Family Board Meeting, which is a number one selling family book about how business people can keep their family life strong as they're building their careers and businesses. So people can read that. So that's sold tens of thousands of copies. So that's something we're pretty proud of. We'll be relaunching the book actually, because it was just a grassroots. I released it and it got a following and never put a marketing dollar into it. But now we're actually going to give it a proper launch this summer. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so it's done well, but that's the only book I've written. We are writing another book, my wife and I, that'll come out at the end of the year called The Passive Income Playbook. And that's just, what is the roadmap of using build to rent and our main strategies, to get a passive income over $40,000 a month. That's kind of the overall strategy.
That's awesome, man. I'll be reading that. And you said you're co-authoring that with your wife?
Yeah.
Is she a writer, or is she involved in the business in some way?
She's involved with it. The book is about how to leverage real estate to buy back your time and have a legendary family life. That's kind of about, so she's been a big part of that. She's involved in some of our bigger real estate stuff, not in my build to rent business, but some of our personal portfolio and short-term rentals and that. And she's one of our rules as a family is she knows my numbers inside and out. It's not this mystery, God forbid anything ever happened to me. She knows where everything is, how everything works. We are very in the know on our financials together. I think that's one of the best things any couple can do that wants to be strong and lasting, is both people understand the numbers. Because a lot of the times it's very lopsided. One knows everything and one knows nothing. That's a very dangerous game plan. And I think there's a new level of camaraderie, mutual respect, um, creativity, brainstorming when both people are involved. Doesn't mean they have to be involved in the business, but they have to understand the financials and how they work and where you're at. It's a very, very important part of, I think, of a successful relationship in marriage.
I find a lot of couples who are, when one's in a real estate, it's either black or white. It's like either the wife is like, I don't know what he does, and I don't know, he's crazy, or it's like she's deeply involved, she gets it, she understands the wins, and she's in some kind of way contributing. So that's pretty cool. That sounds like you guys both found your niche down, and then created a system around that. And it sounds like you've got, dare I say, almost a mastery or say some wisdom and work-life balance from the title of that first book you mentioned.
Yeah, a friend of mine who's a big advocate of our book, he taught us the word integration. My friend Dan, and that so I don't even like to say balance anymore. That's too hard for me. Balance is those little cubes on the scales when we were in high school, and you got to get just the right cubes, and it barely stays. And so I think of integration. It's just integrated like a yin yang, like life and business roll together well together. It's very integrated, so they're both getting and fed and nurtured and enjoyed. So I try to integrate the two, and I think we've done a pretty good job of that.
Integration over balance. I like that. That's cool. That's definitely a lot of kind of our style as well. Is that we're always, dude, I saw this guy yesterday, I'll see him tomorrow. Like and it's nice though, because naturally we'll talk about just whatever the day to day and all this, but then it inevitably we probably talk real estate every single time we hang out. And it just only goes to benefit the clarity of our visions of what's happening on the day to days. Like just right now, before we sat down with you, I kind of updated him just tacitly, like, oh, well, here's what's going on with Main Street. Here's what's happening with that Jasper property, just real quick. I'm not even trying to inform him like this is a meeting. It's just like, that's just so he knows. And then he'll do the same thing with me on the other end, where acquisitions and sales, and he'll let me know kind of what's happening. So the integrations is great, man. I really like that. That's cool. And I think it only works so because you are so niche down. And it sounds to me like you just enjoy the work and it energizes you. And I think that is the biggest takeaway of all from this entire podcast that I hope the audience is getting.
Nice. Yep. It's niching down and staying true to it can be a very important part of success. And sometimes it might seem boring, but I don't need a mentor of mine used to say, you need excitement, go jump out of an airplane on the weekend, and let your niche start to become so developed you enjoy it, but it kind of is boring because you start to know what the next move's going to be. And that's a good thing, because I've been on the other side where everything's a mystery and everything's getting thrown out of you at left field. That's not a good feeling. I'll save my more excitement for surfing and fun adventures with my family.
Nice. I love it. What do you do outside of work and in terms of play? You said surfing. Are there other hobbies that you and the family do that you enjoy by yourself? What are some of those?
Yeah, I surf, write, travel with I'm married with 5 kids. So we have a pretty good time, and I've kept a lot of friendships since I was a kid. So I have a pretty good group of friends, but that's it. And we're involved in a couple of service organizations, and I'd say that that keeps us busy.
That's awesome. Vince and I plan to travel here very shortly. So
nice.
It's funny, the integration thing. Because I'm like, hey, I'm ready to go to Tennessee and just go like bop around for work, to look at some of these duplexes and triplexes that we've been kind of looking at on the MLS. But also because I just love Tennessee. I grew up in Kansas. So I'm kind of a Southern guy. And I just love any city in Tennessee, I'm going to have a great time. And so that work and play is definitely, that's part of why I'm so enthusiastic about our next move for many reasons. But part of it is because it's what you were just saying. It's not even balance. It's actually in the hierarchy, I would say higher than that in integration, and that it's a little bit of both for us, so.
Absolutely. Good. Well, you guys sound like you're on the right track. So I wish you well on that enduring journey.
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Jim. I know you have to go. And your company makes single families, duplexes, and fourplex or triplex too.
Quads. We used to do triplexes. We cut them out just for simplicity. We do just those three: single family, duplex, quads.
And then what if somebody wants to, or we'll definitely reach out to you, but if somebody wants to get a hold of you or your company, what is the website?
Yeah, they can look up sihomesfl.com or Southern Impression Homes. And they'll be able to learn all about our build to rent program.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me, guys. It's great talking with you.
I don't know about you, but I definitely like to see 5-star reviews on any service or any product before I purchase. Please take a second to leave us a 5-star review, whether you're listening to it on Apple, iTunes, or Spotify, or whatever platform. Take a second, goes a long way, helps us a lot to grow the channel, and thanks for listening.